today I'm going to be learning about important people from throughout Canada's history, and I've already learned about many important Canadians, whether it be in media, from movies, TV shows, music. There's so much talent that's came from Canada, and other heroes in Canada's history, guys like Leo Major, Terry Fox, very different but real true heroes. And I'm going to be looking at this video. It's called the top 10 most famous Canadians that you should know. So yeah, interested to know if I know these people, if I've learned about any of them before, but if not, it's just, I'm using this as an opportunity to learn about more Canadians in a bit more depth. And yeah, you can tell me what you think about the Canadians on this list. I'm sure there's a lot of important Canadians that are not on here, so you can tell me about them in the comments. And yeah, I want to use this video to learn about more people, but after this I can maybe focus on them a bit more and like do full videos for those people as well. So tell me what you think about the people on this list as well. Let's watch.
These are some of the most influential Canucks to come out of the Great White North.
Happy Hunger Games, and may the odds be ever in your favor.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 iconic Canadians.
Modern day warrior, mean stride. Yes, I'm sure you mean pride.
For this list, we're looking at the most iconic Canadians in history, in terms of their influence and notoriety at home and abroad.
Scott outsmarted himself on that one. Go again, Jay.
The entries are ranked based on their overall accomplishments, as well as contributions to the country and their embodiment of Canadian values.
Do you still get nervous before you go on the air, though?
Oh, yeah. Oh, are you kidding?
Really?
I'm as excited now as I was the very first show.
However, we're excluding people like Alexander Graham Bell, who only lived in Canada for a short time and was technically a British Commonwealth citizen.
It was clear.
I didn't know Alexander Graham Bell had a connection to Canada. Tell me more about that. I understand he's from Scotland. I think he was the inventor of the telephone, or he was one of the people who were at the beginning of innovation with regards to the telephone. So tell me the connection to Canada as well.
So Bell, Mr. Bell.
Now let's get started, eh?
Alrighty then.
Number 10, David Suzuki.
We're the only animal that said we can affect the future by what we do today.
One of Canada's most beautiful qualities is its vast natural landscape. And Canada is proud of the fact that one of the biggest names in the world to be associated with the fight for environmental conservation is that of a Canadian.
We are going to destroy the very things that make that land so precious to us, the very things that keep us alive and healthy. That's what this battle is about.
Suzuki has worked tirelessly as an educator to fight for this cause, and has even brought his work to a wider audience thanks to the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation and PBS.
This is where I fell in love with life. But there's a darker side to my being here, a warning of the potent, even dangerous consequences of misusing our ideas about how life works.
More recently, he's become a fierce supporter of the fight against climate change and strives towards making the world a more sustainable place.
Things are only impossible until someone decides that they're not. Today is the day we decide.
Number 9.
Yeah, tell me more about him. I've learned briefly about him on a previous video as well. But obviously he's been in the public eye since at least the early 90s there. Clearly what he's doing is very positive for the world as well. So I'm going to guess he's been a source of great inspiration for a lot of Canadians, especially even the younger generation now who have a lot more focus on trying to combat climate change and things like that as well. He seems like he's like really at the forefront of that. So tell me what you know about David Suzuki. Has he affected your life? How do you think he's, what do you think of his actions and how it's helping towards climate change? Is he a great inspiration to Canadians?
Tommy Douglas.
Well, if you're up against a bully, you need to use your head.
What's this? A politician that actually accomplished something? As Premier of the province of Saskatchewan, Tommy Douglas strived to give Canada one of its greatest gifts, universal health care.
In 1959, Douglas proposed a compulsory prepaid health plan the country would come to know as Medicare. 60% of Saskatchewan residents would vote against it.
He's widely credited as the father of Medicare in Canada. His work and vision would later be continued by fellow Canadians to become federal law, making healthcare a right for all Canadians.
Now, if my honorable friend would just sit down and dangle his legs, I should be able to wrap up shortly.
For his impact, in 1981, Douglas received the Order of Canada.
But I want to remind you, you can lock up a mouse and you can lock up a man, but you can't lock up an idea.
Even decades after his death, countless lives are still being improved thanks to a little fellow with an idea. And to thank him, in 2004, citizens of the country voted him the greatest Canadian.
Leaving Saskatchewan, Douglas said, I hope the record will show that I served the people not too badly.
Number 8.
Okay, and also from that last little quote, it seems like he's a very humble man as well. For what he actually was trying to implement, that's like something that could change history in Canada. It said that like it's helping people, but it's probably saved so many lives trying to implement that system. So I hadn't actually heard of Tommy Douglas before, but he seems like a great man. And can you imagine having politicians who are just there to benefit the country, benefit the people, really do the right thing? Something that's missing in so many countries, like just having decent, honest politicians who want to help people. But yeah, great to know. Tell me if you've seen that movie that there was excerpts from, or tell me more about his life and anything else that was interesting about him.
Neil Young.
Oh man, look at my life. I'm a lot like you were.
Young rose to international fame throughout the 60s and 70s with his crisp folk rock sound and poetic singer-songwriter lyrics.
For the thought that I caught that my head is the event of the season.
He first appeared as a founding member of the band Buffalo Springfield, and later with the famed Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. His music was reflective of the times of political turmoil.
What if you knew her and found her dead on the ground?
With tracks like Ohio written in response to the National Guard shooting at Kent State University, but also indicative of more Canadian feelings and ideals, as heard in Helpless.
There is a town in North Ontario.
Today, Young is still performing, retaining his Canadian citizenship, and sticking to his political guns with his critique of Canadian politics, reminding us all to keep on rocking in the free world. Number 7.
Yeah, I mean, someone like Neil Young, an absolute icon. That's someone who's just so respected musically and I guess personally as well throughout the world, never mind just in Canada or North America. Like a true like musical genius. And the thing that's good about him or people like that is the music has meaning, has heart. It's really about something real. When you see so much like manufactured throwaway music today and you see somebody like this who not only is amazingly talented but really using that talent to spread like messages that need to be heard, important messages. So tell me what you think about Neil Young. Have you seen him live before? What's he like live? What's your favourite song from him as well?
7. Sir John A. Macdonald.
Just imagine, to the east, the Atlantic provinces, then Upper and Lower Canada, across the prairies to the Rockies and beyond. A new country made one by a railway from sea to sea.
Although Scottish-born, John A. Macdonald was the first Canadian Prime Minister and a driving force behind the foundation of the country.
Sir John A. Macdonald won 3 more elections in 1882, 1887, and 1891.
Serving as Prime Minister for 19 years, his political maneuvering and rousing sense of nationalism allowed him to bring together French and English-speaking colonies to form a unified nation.
He did one thing, so simple to us, but it made him stand out then. He shaved, he was clean shaven. All men then in public life had big, bushy a beard.
He further helped to keep the country connected by getting the Canadian Pacific Railway underway.
As a consequence of his tragic personal life, MacDonald became a heavy drinker for much of his life.
While criticized at the time for being an alcoholic womanizer, he is well remembered today for being one of the principal fathers of Canada.
Gentlemen, the time for union is now. I ask you to take the dare.
Number 6.
Yeah, tell me how he's remembered then, again, especially being from Scotland. I feel like I remember someone telling me about him in the comments before, telling me he was from Scotland. The first Prime Minister of Canada was born in Scotland. I'm so proud of that. Not only that, like, in power for 19 years, clearly was a very well respected politician as well. I mean, maybe that's just a thing that back in the day politicians were just better in all aspects, more respected. As much as he was, like, as they say, a womanizer and alcoholic, again, like, politically, he seems like obviously had a great, it must have had an amazing impact on the country, actually. So tell me what your thoughts are on his him being the first Prime Minister of Canada. What was he remembered for specifically? But yeah, really proud of that connection.
Céline Dion. Canada has so many great singers for such a small population, from Bryan Adams to Shania Twain. But one voice undeniably stands out from the rest. By the age of 22, Dion was already a star in her home province of Quebec, having built an impressive francophone body of work.
That voice.
But that's when she released her first Anglophone album, opening herself up to international audiences. In addition to her many accomplishments, Dion has won 5 Grammys and is recognized around the world as one of the greatest singing talents ever. The heart of her music will indeed go on. Number 5.
I mean, that song can, like, potentially have a claim it being the biggest song of the 90s. I remember that being in the charts in the UK for just, like, so long, man. It's like it was never off the number 1 for so long. But I mean, there's 2 things about her. It's obviously the voice. Her voice itself is just absolutely amazing. But being able to craft those, like, perfect pop songs, 2 things, putting them together is very difficult for most people to do. That's why you don't really get big stars like her who are able to have the talent and be able to craft those amazing songs. But when you see someone like her who basically controlled the 90s, people like Justin Bieber, Drake, who are both Canadian as well, who are not just like, they're the biggest stars in the world, they're from Canada. It's like Canada really, again, like, for the population size, really producing so much.
5. Lester B. Pearson.
Is to find solutions for the problems which, because we have left them unsolved over the years, have finally exploded into this fighting and conflict.
A politician who did many valuable things during his career, Pearson achieved one of his greatest accomplishments in 1956 when, as Secretary of State for External Affairs, he successfully helped resolve the Suez Crisis, for which he received the Nobel Peace Prize.
By 1956, Lester Pearson is the best-known Canadian in the world.
Later becoming Prime Minister, his minority Liberal government introduced student loans, kept Canada from entering the Vietnam War, abolished the death penalty, and federalized Tommy Douglas's work by introducing universal health care.
But the actual process of negotiation at times must be done quietly.
As if that wasn't enough, next time you think about how awesome Canada's flag is, you can thank him for that too.
We have a special association with Europe, with Great Britain and with France, and we are North American. So we can talk to both sides in their own, not only their own language, in their own accent.
Number 4.
I mean, whoa. So influential in so many different areas. So many great politicians in Canada's history. Again, tell me what you think about him. Like, he really had some, like, momentous moments in his political career, clearly, that still have an impact today. Tell me, who's your favourite Canadian politician ever and why? So much amazing history in that area.
Jim Carrey.
Guess you didn't see that coming.
Sure, when it comes to Canadian comedians, Mike Myers is an obvious contender.
Well, that's just groovy, baby.
But not many can compete with Rubberface himself. Carrey worked in stand-up and appeared on television before rising to stardom through classic roles like Ace Ventura.
Would you like an ashtray?
I don't smoke. It's a disgusting habit.
And Stanley Ipkiss in The Mask.
It's party time! P-A-R-T. Why? Because I gotta!
Leaving his mark not only on Canada, but also on the American film industry, he then showed us he could pull off a serious side of acting with The Truman Show. Not bad for a guy who grew up in poverty in Ontario.
Hey! There's not going to be any fight without Scott Riles and the incredibly polite Canadian news team.
Number 3.
Yeah, oh, nice Terry Fox as well. Yeah, so Jim Carrey, great actor, man, and comedian as well. Like, I was actually just recently watching one of his earliest TV appearances when he's doing a lot of impressions, and he was so funny. His impressions were like really scarily good as well. But yeah, when he went on to become an actor, like, I really enjoy everything he's done, man, especially his comedy movies of the 90s as well. Tell me what your favourite movie from Jim Carrey is, actually.
Terry Fox.
I'm crying now because there's somebody here right now who is going through the same thing that I went through. Exact same thing, and he's only 10 years old.
A teen athlete who was diagnosed with cancer and ultimately had a leg amputated, Terry Fox is representative of the indomitable spirit of the Canadian people.
I've said to people before that I'm going to do my very best to make it. I'm not going to give up, and that's true. But I might not make it, and if I don't make it, the marathon of hope better continue.
With a positive outlook and impressed by the importance of medical research, Fox made the decision not to sulk, but to raise money for cancer study by running across Canada on his prosthetic leg.
The Marathon of Hope. And Terry would do it by running 26 miles. A marathon. Every single day.
When cancer struck again, he was forced to end the Marathon of Hope early. And he passed away a few months later.
All I can say is if there's any way I can get out there again and finish it, I will.
His memory lives on today, though, as every year, the Terry Fox Run fundraises for cancer research. His courage and strength continues to inspire thousands afflicted by this disease all over the world.
Across the country, there were hundreds of courses and hundreds of thousands of runners who collected millions for the fight against cancer.
Number 2.
Yeah, I mean, even just hearing that small excerpt, it's like, when I first heard his story, just so inspirational. He is a true hero, what he went through, and yeah, just the legacy that continues on today with his runs and how many lives again he's saved with the amount of money that he raised and his fund raised. Yeah, fantastic, man.
Pierre Elliott Trudeau.
At any cost? How far would you go with that? How far would you extend that?
Well, just watch me.
Hailed by many as one of the greatest Canadian prime ministers of all time, Trudeau is well recognized for his accomplishments, which include his response to the October crisis of 1970, as well as his role in uniting Canada's two solitudes.
Promoted peace with the Soviet Union to the dismay of then-President Ronald Reagan, and fought to protect Canada's identity from its imposing neighbor to the south.
Successful at increasing Canada's stance on the world stage as well, thanks to his colorful persona. At home, Trudeau succeeded in making Canada a legally bilingual country, saw to the patriation of the Canadian Constitution, and established the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
The Constitution Act was signed into law by Queen Elizabeth in an elaborate ceremony on Parliament Hill.
His status as a Canadian icon is firmly held due to his passion, his international diplomacy and quest for peace, as well as his no BS attitude.
World leaders past and present who knew and worked with Pierre Trudeau attended the funeral mass at the Basilica of Notre Dame for the man who served as Prime Minister for 15 years.
Meanwhile, his son Justin continued the Trudeau political legacy after he became the country's 23rd Prime Minister in 2015.
You built this platform. You built this movement.
Before we name our number one...
Yeah, so another clearly hugely influential. I didn't think the politicians could get any better than they've been so far. But Pierre Trudeau, obviously the highest on the list. Tell me what you think about him as well. Obviously, all of these politicians that it's mentioned so far have had, like, made changes and had effect that are still seen today. So it's actually quite amazing. How does Pierre Trudeau compare to Justin Trudeau? How are they different? What are the good things? What did Pierre do that maybe Justin has not done that's benefit? Has he made any? Has Justin made any sort of big decisions that can have like great effect in the future of Canada as well?
Canadian of all time. Here are some honorable mentions.
For Canadians, hockey isn't just a game. It's our game.
Your faith was strong, but you needed proof.
Let me see, it is month 2.
Right.
Yes, so I'm not finished until December.
You oversee this show literally and figuratively.
Yeah, totally.
Figuratively, but literally, your office is right up there.
I'm flying. Jack.
What comes first? The hundreds of thousands and millions of Rwandans? Or my troops who've been lent to me?
Number 1.
Oh, Wayne Gretzky, number 1. But yeah, even when you see that the ones who were not on the list there, and their importance to media and just life in general, it's mad that they couldn't even be included on the top 10 most famous Canadians you should know. First, yeah, let's see Wayne Gretzky.
And back out comes Wayne Gretzky. Gretzky moving ahead, picks up Olsen, fights his way free, score!
As hockey is Canada's unofficial national pastime, the country spawned some phenomenal players, including Maurice Richard, also known as the Rocket.
That night, Richard not only succeeded in joining the historical greats of Canadian hockey, but he also reached the high point of his career.
However, only one ever earned the nickname the Great One.
And now he'll receive the Stanley Cup and listen to this crowd at the Northlands Coliseum. The Edmonton Oilers.
The man who wore number 99 on the ice is hailed as the greatest hockey player of all time. And rightfully so.
I remember when you were traded from Edmonton Oilers to the Kings, it was a phenomenon that I can't think of anything comparable in sports.
Still holding 60 NHL records even this long after his retirement in 1999. Gretzky is such an icon, he was one of 4 Canadian athletes tasked with lighting the Olympic cauldron at the 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympics. In fact, Gretzky has surpassed the status of icon and is regarded as a living legend among Canadians today.
The greatest thing about the hockey players are they're wonderful people, and they want to be taught, and they want to be coached, and they want to get better, and they want to be successful.
Do you?
Yeah, tell me what you think about Wayne Gretzky there as well. What made him so good? And yes, something like when he played for the Edmonton Oilers, obviously there's other big Canadian hockey teams. We see the sort of player that even if you supported another team, the Maple Leafs, whatever, would you still respect Gretzky? Would you still think he's a great player just because he's Canadian? Or would you maybe dislike him because he plays for like a competitor or stuff like that? But yeah, even being a young guy, growing up in Scotland when I was a kid, knowing very little about hockey, I still knew of Wayne Gretzky. He was that sort of player that transcended sport, that everybody knew, young, old, no matter what location in the world. You know, you can compare to someone like maybe Michael Jordan in basketball, something like that. Gretzky was just the hockey guy, man. So I never really got to see much of him, obviously, growing up. But tell me what you enjoyed watching about him most. And yeah, tell me what you think about this list. What other Canadians do you think could be included on this list? And anybody on this list, who do you think I should learn more about? Maybe John McDonald would be a good one because obviously that Scottish connection. But tell me who you think I should learn more about from this list. Thanks.